Pattie Curran. She lives in North Carolina. She's the mother of 2 children born with a rare bone marrow dysfunction syndrome. So they were covered for 9 years on an affordable health care plan through her husband's employer, not the Affordable Health Care Act, but actually health care through her husband's employer. Her family's now been hit by higher premiums, higher deductions, and higher medication copays since 2011, when the implementation of Obamacare forced her husband's employer to make cuts to the company's health care package so they could offset the expenses of the Obamacare mandates. And Curran's family went from having 0 credit card debt in 2011 to now there's $60,000 in debt because of this. And Pattie's on the line with us to chat with us about it. Pattie, how are you?
Fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Well, you don't sound like you're fine. I mean, you're swimming in debt now because of this. What is the deal?
Well, Obamacare has really changed our lives for the worse. We have medication copays that we can no longer afford, and my children's life-saving medications are no longer covered, which is more of an important issue at the moment than all of our debt, because we don't know how we're going to afford the medication because our credit cards are all maxed out. But, they knew this was going to happen. So,
yeah, I think a lot of this is on purpose, and I think it's going to happen to the rest of us. I mean, there's no reason why an employer like mine that owns a lot of radio stations wouldn't just say, hey, instead of paying $15,000 for somebody's insurance, why don't I pay the $2,000 fine and put them on Obamacare? And then, of course, we're left to fend for ourselves. So you had pretty darn good insurance before with your husband's insurance through their company, but with all the Obamacare implementations, they had to change that, right?
Yes. In 2010, when Obamacare passed, everything was fine. 2011, we started seeing increased premiums, copays, deductibles. The one example I like to use that's the epitome of Obamacare is a medication that protects my son's kidneys from damage. Prior to Obamacare, from 2005 to 2010, it had a copay of $131 for a 3-month supply. In 2011, the year after the law passed, the copay went up to $283, and then subsequently $343, $495, $532. Meanwhile, we were trying to get what they call a pre-auth, which is a medical necessity exception, because he does not respond to the generic. But before Obamacare, it was covered. No paperwork, went to the pharmacy, picked it up, not a problem. And now we have doctors that have to spend hours and hours on the phone trying to get these exceptions. We're on the phone for hours. It's a nightmare all around.
So what are you doing about this? I mean, you're $60,000 at least in debt now because of it.
Yes, we're day to day. Actually, you have to focus on the daily issues. Obamacare is such a nightmare. I can look around my house and I can tell you, thousands of items that are subjected to the medical device tax. I mean, there's so many horrible things in it. We just focus on the day to day. Right now, like I said, the Mida cocktail is no longer covered, which is a bigger issue, where we used to pay $150 in copays. We're going to now have to pay $650 to $700 a month to get those medications. So we haven't really figured it out yet, but just trying to get our story out there, because what's happening to our family, and this is something I try to reiterate every time I speak to anyone, what's happening to our family could be any American family.
And maybe before it's all over with.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're just an average American family. My husband has a good job, and Obamacare has just wreaked a disaster on my family.
So both of your kids, or you have 2 kids, how many kids you got total? Just the 2?
I have 3 children.
Okay, so 2 of them have
chronic
this
illness.
All right. Well, I mean, the most important thing I want to ask is how they doing?
Right now, I mean, they're day to day. I mean, they have issues every day. We have, we have a lot of medical procedures that we do on a daily basis. We have a surgery coming up for my youngest, but overall, I mean, they're doing well.
That's good. That's good. But, I mean, it doesn't help to throw the stress in of this added debt and all the rest of it when everything was fine just before. Why'd they have to screw with it, you wonder? I'm sure. We all wonder this.
Oh, absolutely. In 2010, when I confronted Senator Kay Hagan, everything that I told her has come to fruition. We knew that the Mida cocktail would be discontinued this year. I just knew it because it's a huge expense. My husband's company paid over $500,000 just for my my family alone for medical care. 398,000 of that was just for their medications last year. And we knew this was coming. The company sent out a letter stating that their health care costs were going to increase $7.4 million in 2014, above the $64 million that they already, averaged paying in 2013. So we knew that this was coming. You really can't prepare for it, because how do you prepare for your life-saving medications no longer being covered?
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I mean, how are you going to cope with this? I mean, are they set up a fund to try to help you guys recoup these expenses, or what?
Actually, I do have, our friends did set up a website for my family, but I'm not speaking out in order for my family to gain. I'm mainly speaking out because I want people to stand with my family, for my children like them, against this overreaching government. And that's the main reason that I'm speaking out. I don't ever want anybody to think that I'm doing this for profit or any other reason, because if we don't stand up against this government, against Obamacare, it's going to destroy our nation, family by family.
Well, I'm sure you got a long way with Kay Hagan, on this.
Oh, Kay Hagan doesn't. Kay Hagan and her staff, they really don't care. We went to D.C. twice last year. The first time her staffer rolled her eyes at us, one of them, and Kay Hagan never responds. I mean, really, I've been to every single senator's office, and I've brought bills. I brought the letter from the employer. Every single senator's office, every single representative's office. I walked to the halls of those buildings and brought these to them, and 3 senators cared. And I'm sure you know who they are. Mike Lee, he actually gave me a hug, and Ted Cruz. Mm-hmm. Those 2 personally spoke to me, and Rand Paul through his office. Wow. Those are the only 3 senators who have ever cared. Our own senators from the state of North Carolina do not care about families being harmed by Obamacare.
Where do you live in North Carolina?
Winston-Salem.
Okay, yeah. I used to live in Greensboro. I'm from North Carolina, so I know the area well.
Okay.
So, I mean, where do you go from here? Because, I mean, it seems like to me, and just doing the math on this, if you've accumulated $60,000 or more in debt in just the last 3 years, that you got a cash flow problem. This is not going to get better. It's going to get worse. What are your plans for taking care of all this?
We don't have any plans. We're not the federal government. We can't run up $17 trillion in debt. And
you can't print more money?
I know, that's the honest truth. We really don't have any plans. Again, we just take it day by day. Otherwise, the anxiety would probably overcome us.
Well, your plan is to try to get this changed so that more people aren't. For one thing, more people aren't going what you're going through, and that maybe you don't have to go through. We can put things back like they were.
We hope. Because they're not talking about repeal as much. Now they're discussing replace. We want it repealed, and then we want the Republicans in Congress to stand up to defund it, to delay it until they can repeal it. But they have to have courage and fortitude in order to do that, and they're not standing up for the American people. And that's why I continue to go to D.C. and get after each and every one of them, because we want them to stand up for my family, for my children, future generations of America, and they're not doing that.
Yeah, well, the 3 you mentioned, I mean, we're talking about Mike Lee, Rand Paul, and Ted Cruz, have all been trying to defund this thing and take the funding mechanism out of it. And the rest of the Senate doesn't, they want to just go along to get along.
Exactly. We need people to stand up, and I'm quite frankly tired of hearing them say there's nothing they can do because the Democrats control the Senate and Obama's still in the White House. Well, I'm sorry. Get a pair and stand up. Stand up for what you believe in. Stand up for these families, because that's what's more important. And I don't see them, other than those 3 men, I don't see them standing up.
No, I don't either. You're exactly right. Hopefully things will change, though, Pattie, after the midterm elections, if the Senate is turned back over to the Republicans. At least we'll have, and not you're having a problem with a lot of Republicans too, and there are a lot of rhinos up there, but at least it may give them some cover to do something about this. Whereas they've been in the minority, they've been afraid to do something. Maybe it'll be easier for the Ted Cruzes of the world to shame them into doing the right thing if they actually do get the majority.
Well, you have a lot more hope and faith in Congress and our elected officials than I do. I hope that we maintain control of the House and that we get control of the Senate, but I'm not all that hopeful that they will somehow, get a spine and
So you think they may be even
up.
more complacent if they're in the majority because they don't have to do anything?
I honestly think that they're going to tell the American people that there's nothing they can do because Obama's still president, and if they defund it or repeal it, he's going to veto it, and we don't have a veto-proof majority. And I honestly believe that's what they're going to say. And then I know right now the reason we need both houses is in case we have, Supreme Court nominations, so forth and so on. So I understand that. I just don't think in terms of Obamacare that we are going to get any further in repealing and dismantling it. I mean, it's insane. But look what they just did with the XM Bank. The Republicans are pretty much the same as the Democrats. They just passed a CR that extended the XM Bank for 6 months after the election, and then they're going to have an up or down vote. Why didn't they just have an up or down vote?
Because they don't have the guts to do it.
Exactly. So they're not going to have any more guts after the election.
Yeah.
I don't see it. So, I mean, sorry to be such a killjoy, but I just don't see it.
No, I'm with you. I think that somebody needs to put the fire under them and hold their feet to the fire on this. But I don't know that that's going to happen. And I'm with you on that until we get more people like the three that you just mentioned. As long as we've got Republicans and name only up there that just want to go along to get along, we're not going to change things. But I will tell you this, I think that this whole Obamacare thing, people have not even begun to understand how bad it's going to be until the employer mandate is enforced, and that's when you're going to see employers ditching their own insurance left and right. As I told you, when they're there with the option of paying $15,000 for somebody's insurance, paying $2,000 fine, and putting them off on Obamacare, you're going to see employers all across this country doing that, and that's when people are going to really be upset about it.
Oh, absolutely. We're waiting right now, anxiously awaiting open enrollment. We don't know if we're going to have insurance through our employer next year. So we're in, Daily Caller just reported one day this week that 50,000 people, I believe it's in New Mexico, will be getting their pink slips and no longer have coverage through their employer. So we're waiting with bated breath here. Don't know if we have to go onto the exchanges, which will be even worse for our family.
Yeah, well, it's something to watch. Pattie Curran from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Pattie, appreciate your story, and hang in there. Hopefully you're going to ignite some kind of a groundswell in this country to get this thing overturned or defunded or something in the future so that we don't all have to deal with what you're going through.
Well, I keep working at it, and I've protested in front of the Capitol and the White House, and I'll continue to do so.
All right, Pattie, appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
All right.